Hey, too, it's Eric. This video should be pretty quick. I just ran. There was an interesting. I had a midterm test today, this afternoon, at 1 o'clock. And actually, after I finished my midterm, I was just walking back to my car in the parking lot at the school, and I saw a banner up. I go to Brock University. And I saw a banner up that there was a Karl Marx conference taking place like at the school. While I was writing my test, the Karl Marx conference was going on all day today from like 8 p.m. to 5:30. So this was like by the time I walked into the Karl Marx conference, it was like 4:45 p.m. And it's just funny because I don't know, I figured, hey, why not? I'll go ask, because it's an absolute historical fact that Karl Marx was educated by the Jesuits in Prussia for 5 years. That's just an undeniable historical fact. So I'm saying, okay, so let's just see how these quote unquote scholars react to this historical fact that Karl Marx was educated by Jesuits, and they reacted very much how I expected. And it was funny. Like I think they definitely wanted me to shut up because I made a comment. I was speaking for about 5 minutes on my comment, and I sourced over like 8 pieces of literature. I sourced that Karl Marx was very anti-Semitic in the book Marx and Satan. When Karl Marx wrote an anti-Semitic passage in a uh, uh, New York Times article called "The Russian Loan," and in the New York Times, I brought up how what Karl Marx said was actually identical to Jesuit anti-Semitism that was coming out of the Civica Catholic magazine. I referenced David Kurtzer's book. I also mentioned that again. I mentioned that Karl Marx was educated by Jesuits, and I mentioned Niccoloni's book on the Jesuit reductions. I referenced Theodore Greisinger's book, and I don't think I was talking to this guy after, and I mentioned Richard Thompson's book to him. But while I was talking, I brought up these books, how the Jesuits perfected the system of communism or communal living in Paraguay in the 1600s. And like I said, no one addressed what I had to say. They were more than happy to take the irrelevant, meaningless softball questions that they were talking about. They were talking about Marxists in Lebanon. The country Lebanon that's 40% Catholic and has Jesuit St. Joseph's University that 8 Lebanese presidents have gone to. And actually, I noticed. I'll check the comments here. When I brought up the name, so when I brought up that, hey, I want to bring up the historical fact that Marx was educated by the Society of Jesus, the Marxist guy who was there at the camp, I just saw like a look of fear come into his face. Literally a look of fear. You know what I mean? Especially when they saw that like I wasn't just some weak university student that they could intimidate and brush off. Like I knew what I was talking about. I was, bringing up historical references. That's why they just wanted me to shut up. And then they actually said that, oh, we're not going to respond to these ad hominem attacks against Karl Marx. I'm like, ad hominem attacks? I'm like, name one thing that I've said that was an ad hominem attack. And like they didn't respond to that, to my asking them name one thing that I said was ad hominem, because they know it wasn't ad hominem. And then so to respond to that, they're like, well, it was, your comment was unrelated to our discussion at the Marxist conference. And then I'm like, and I said, I'm aware of that. The very first thing I said before I made my comment is that I know I'm arriving here a little late, and this may be unrelated to the topic of discussion, but nonetheless, I'm going to be citing an historical fact. And I thought it was really interesting. Like these so-called Marxists are so asleep. Like it's honestly pathetic how asleep they have no idea what's going on in the world. These guys were also like praising Joseph Stalin as a good guy, and I made the connection too that Joseph Stalin, like Karl Marx, was educated by the Jesuits, and they just didn't acknowledge it. I brought up how like the Jesuit constitutions, when they were shown in Venice in the 1600s, they were expelled from Venice. I said when the Jesuit constitutions were read at the Parliament in Paris in the 1760s, they were banished from France, but they just chose not to acknowledge me, which I thought was really funny. Here, I'll go into the chat here. But I'm gonna show you, like, I have the picture of this like billboard on my. I took a picture of it on my phone. Yeah, these Marxists are sheep, man. Like full on, like absolute sheep. Like a Jesuit, they have no idea. Like the Jesuit Edmund Walsh, an American Jesuit, was plotting the entire Bolshevik Revolution. They don't know that a Roman Catholic priest, Stanislav Orlomensky, came to see Stalin privately and made the statement that Roman Catholics are being treated great in Soviet Russia, while Stalin was massacring millions of Protestants and Orthodox. Um, but I thought that was interesting how the guy said that what I was saying was ad hominem. And it was a pathetic defense of Karl Marx. You know, there's like, oh, like, Karl Marx was anti-Semitic. You're just making that up. Like, what do you mean I'm making it up? I'm sourcing you the actual article that Karl Marx wrote, titled "The Russian Loan" in the New York Times. Like, in that article, Karl Marx actually says behind every pope stands a Jesuit. And I also brought up to this Marxist after my comment. I'm like, are you even aware of liberation theology? How the Jesuits in the 1950s created a Catholicized Marxism, and their official motto was Ibn, in Latin it was like Ibn en Jerusalem, where Lenin is Jerusalem, and he's just a sheeple. You know what I mean? Hey, what's up, guys? Yeah, I'm just seeing your comments now. It is, yeah, it is unbelievable what's taking place. And like, well, I saw it on my own eyes. I saw the cognitive dissonance like firsthand. Like I literally saw the guy like shake, like they were literally shaking. And like I was remaining calm. I was just speaking the truth. I'm just like I wasn't hesitating at all. Like I was firm, you know, being me, speaking the truth, you know, doing the right thing. And like they were shook. You know, they were making excuse after excuse about Karl Marx. And he was like, "Oh, well, the Jesuits aren't even relevant." I'm like, "Well, with all due respect, have you read like have you studied? You don't." I said, "With all due respect, like, have you done any studying on the Jesuits?" And they're like, "No." And I was like, "Well, then like, you're not qualified to make that statement." And afterwards, like, I actually told, like, I went across to this guy's side and I showed him the quotes of Napoleon Bonaparte, what he said about the Jesuits. I showed him that during 9/11, all like the director of the CIA, George Tenet, was a Jesuit. I even showed him the connection with Adam Weishaupt being a Jesuit, creating the Illuminati. And event he just walked away from me. He just said like, you know what, this yeah, it was pretty funny. I didn't say I took like the high road in this situation. But he's like, you know what, talking to you is like it's like kind of being at a party where you're talking with some random guy that you don't want to be around. So see you, man. That was the Marxist, that was the intellectual Marxist response to my scholarly questioning of Karl Marx. They had nothing. Like this one professor just flat out said, you know what, I have no comment. I have nothing to say on the Jesuits. Ooh. You know, these are so-called like scholars. You know what I mean? And like they don't even have the balls to I respect professors like David Kurtzer, who wrote the book like The Popes Against the Jews. At least scholars like David Kurtzer, even if they don't give the whole truth, like they have the balls and the spine to write some truths, historical truths about the papacy. And I actually mentioned that to the guy. And he's like, "Well, you know, I don't care about the Jesuits." So I was like, "Oh, so there to goes history then, eh? So like just fuck history." I didn't say fuck history, but I was like, "Oh, so just say the hell of it with history then." It was funny. Hey, thanks guys, appreciate it. Yeah, yeah, I called out the Jesuits fully at this Marxist conference. Here, I'll show you this on my phone. And I brought up like the historical source. I'm like, and I actually, and when the guy accused me of ad hominem, I'm like, you cannot accuse me of ad hominem when this is like source on biography.com that Karl Marx was educated by the Jesuits. And I brought up the accusation that Bismarck claimed that Karl Marx was in cahoots with the Jesuit general Peter Beck, and Marx even acknowledged that on Marxist.org. And I mentioned that I'm like, on Marxist.org, Karl Marx even acknowledges the accusation by Bismarck. Okay? And then I brought up how Joseph Stalin acknowledged his Jesuit education on Marxist.org. And then like I mentioned like the Jesuit Louis Tepperelli who created social justice. Like these Marxists have no like they're completely asleep. And it got me thinking maybe there's something sinister with these like Marxist organizations that go around to the schools because it's complete mind control. Like there's statues of Karl Marx right now in communist China next to like Mao Zedong. Mao Zedong killed like 60 million people. You know, Joseph Stalin, Jesuit educated, killed like 50 million people. Fidel Castro. I didn't bring up Fidel Castro. I should have brought up Fidel Castro. Fidel Castro is another Jesuit educated Marxist, communist Marxist. These Marxists are completely asleep. And like I don't know, it was kind of I don't know, it kind of it was really funny to see like the cognitive dissonance in their eyes. Um, and it was honestly fear. Like they fear the system fears when you actually when you're knowledgeable. They fear an intellectual uh, person. You know what I mean? Like they fear like and that's why like the truth is masked up. Like they fear the truth. Yeah. So yeah, I think there's definitely maybe possibly something sinister with all these Karl Marx. Well, like like the public school university system is completely controlled by the Jesuits, and it's nothing but cultural Marxism at this point. Uh, Here, I'll show you the banner one last time before I sign off. I thought that was hilarious. Like our so-called enlightened individuals at the universities have no idea that Karl Marx was educated by the Jesuits, and they don't even know who the Jesuits are for a so-called professor, so-called scholars. They have no idea who the Jesuits are. That shows to me that they actually like don't know anything about the current geopolitical situation. And then I even brought up the point. I'm like, did you? I'm like, I brought it to this Marxist. I'm like, are you even aware that like the Jesuits were the confessors to kings and queens? He's like, so what does that mean? I'm like, so what do you mean? Like, what? How can you just brush that off? That the fact that the Jesuits were confessors to the kings of Europe. And I brought up Louis the 14th, two Jesuit confessors, Francois Lachaise and Michael Letellier, both SJ, Society of Jesus. And he just brushed that off. He just completely ignored it. You know what I mean? That's what all these Marxists are like. They're like, oh no, just fuck history. Like we don't care about history. You know, Karl Marx is our Jesus Christ, our Krishna. Karl Marx is our Buddha, and we're just propping him up as some messiah that we're just gonna blindly follow. You know, fuck facts. That was that. I would say that's literally the motto I got from this conference. And like the students that were there watching, like I obviously didn't like didn't know what I was talking about. I think there may have been a few people in the audience that were taking what I was saying seriously, but I think it definitely went over the heads of people at the Marxist conference. And yeah, like, it's just pathetic. Like at this point in history, like Marxism, like I didn't bring this up. Another great point before I go. Jim Jones, the fanatical, according to Alberto Rivera, Jim Jones was an ordained Jesuit priest. According to FBI documents, Jim Jones repeatedly said that the ends justify the means, a Jesuit maxim. And Jim Jones actually, which in you can read this in declassified FBI documents from Jim Jones's mouth himself. Jim Jones says, "I am a rabid communist and Marxist." Okay, so it's just pathetic that people are at this point thinking that communism and Marxism is going to solve the humanity's problems. It's just absolutely pathetic. I want to get that last point across. Mao Zedong and Stalin alone, you know, are responsible for almost like 100 million deaths. Like it's just. I'm gonna check the chat one more time. Oh yeah, I'll be careful. Yeah, like, I'm not scared of these guys. You know, I view you know, like Helena Blavatsky said, I view these men like as cowards. You know what I mean? Like I'm not scared of the Jesuits or the CIA. You know what I mean? Like and in general, I'm the type of person like I'm a truth over everything type of person. I don't care about what other people think about me. I don't care about shallow, petty. Um, you know, that's like high school girl shit. Caring what other people are gonna think about you. You know what I mean? Like I care about the truth. Okay, but yeah, absolutely, Scott. All CIA assets. That's what got me thinking. Like, I think some of these Marxist guys that are going around to like schools like Brock University that are just spewing this filth about Marxism. I think some of them definitely are CIA assets, no doubt. You know, CIA. You know, like Freemasonic. Like, actually, the coat of arms. I didn't bring this up. The coat of arms of Soviet or Marxist communist East Germany has the Roman laurel wreath of the Freemasonic square and compass on it. The coat of arms of the Soviet Union has a Roman laurel wreath on it. The coat of arms of communist China has a Roman laurel wreath on it. So I'm just saying, like these Marxists are asleep. Don't listen to the Marxists. And in general, just speak the truth. If you see a public event where there's like a political discussion going on, like speak the truth at the event, even if the other people like even if it goes over their head. Um, you know, you plant a seed, and that's what I hope that I did at this event today. I hope I planted a seed with a few of the individuals that they go because when you do the further research, when you look into Karl Marx's connections with the Jesuits, it becomes absolutely undeniable that Karl Marx was a tool of the Jesuits. It's completely undeniable. To deny it is just cognitive dissonance and escapism, escaping from it. And and a lot of people will have a hurdle, you know, accepting that there is a geopolitical priesthood that's controlling all the countries of the earth. But then those people aren't studied because if you have the average person who is reluctant to think that way hasn't read any books ever on the Jesuit order or Vatican geopolitics or really like, any like history for that matter in most cases. Yeah, that's thanks guys for tuning in. I just wanted to share that little story with you. I thought I got a kick out of this Marxist Congress or Marxist conference. And yeah, like they chose to ignore me, just completely brush me aside, and like they were more than happy to answer softball, meaningless questions. You know, it was very politician like, I may add. Just like if I were to ask, let's say like Joe Biden on his Jesuit answers, like I would be completely ignored, and I was ignored like in the same way that like Joe Biden, for example, would have ignored me. You know, and they ignore what they fear. They fear the truth, so they're gonna brush it to the side. But that doesn't matter because you know, this is way bigger than just me. So I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. And others as well that are researching and sharing the truth are going to keep doing what they're doing. And it's a spiritual battle. You know, you may not win in this lifetime, but you know, it's an ongoing spiritual battle that's been going on for hundreds of years. So, but that's all for this one, guys. Take care and yeah, stay safe, you guys also. And namnas, peace and love.